Uh, Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this not botched introduction to Vampire the Requiem, A Requiem for London. Um, Tonight we settled a scene on Doctor Heartwell. That is Doctor, right? He has a doctorate, I assume.
He goes by Sir because he used to be a member of the peerage back in the 1920s.
So let me get the torch-bearing mob. Okay, well, I put you as Dr. Hartwell in the description, so I'll have to do for now. Um, Sir Alexander Hartwell is on his way to King's College. A school, funnily enough, built for the arts and the humanities as opposed to science and medicine, but nonetheless is an institution that the Ordo have housed themselves in for some time, quite a long time actually, almost 170 years. And as Hartwell makes his way inside, he has already been given the necessary certification to move through the university, largely as he pleases. Certain areas of the university remain off limits to all but the highest ranking kindred or kindred of certain sworn orders, such as yourself. You, however, are scheduled to meet a colleague of yours who is to get you up to speed. His name is Matthew Layton, member of your...
Does he go by Doctor? Dr. Layton. I hate you. But, am I going to have to solve all kinds of fiendish puzzles to get to me?
He is very good at puzzles. He has all of the dice for puzzles and board games.
What does he teach?
He is... In a second, let me get up the list of titles, because the Order have a lot.
Oh no, I meant as a human, what does he teach? If he's a professor here. If he takes classes.
Oh, he teaches history. He's a doctor in classical history. But yes, moving through the university is doesn't look particularly remarkable. Nothing about this place, at least on the surface, looks like it should be outlandish. Now, King's College is...
For the record, Alexander is one of those dickheads who wears sunglasses at night. Because, even though it won't actually affect him, because obviously, even if there's a bright flash of light, the sunglasses don't actually dim the light for him, because he can just see through them like they're ordinary lenses. He does it just because it was a kind of an odd preemptive measure that he thought might work, he was wrong, but he got into the habit. But underneath the sunglasses, because I don't know if this changes my eyes physically or not, I'd say it probably would. I'm going to spend that blood point, Bishop, to observe the spirit world around me, just in case there's anything unusual. I'm going to pop it on. Spending a point of blood to do it.
What are you doing?
Activating Ujat.
Okay. You don't see any spirits. You do see Vata. You do see thin strands of light sort of make their way through the corridors in a very how to put it, a very formulaic fashion. As you look in Ujat, the lights almost appear as if they were almost looks like a circuit board in how formulaic it is. The lines of energy are very straight. They're not wispy. They don't curve. They only curve if a room does. Given your time within the Ordo and your prodigious occult knowledge, you understand these to be ley lines that have been altered through various Ordo techniques and rites, a combination of geomancy and mortal occult ritual.
He nods his head. He stops and he reaches up his hand, touching the ephemeral with his fingertips. Obviously, it doesn't do anything, but it's almost like he's examining it, giving it a cursory look. Hey, Bishop, can I use Spirit's Touch on it?
You can Spirit's Touch the building, and because you know about ley lines, you can ask about the ley lines within the building.
Neat. Do you mind if I roll it?
Yeah, the ley lines also pass through the building, but this is clearly a point where they coalesce.
Cool. So Spirit's Touch is intelligence, or it's wits, which is 2, plus occult, which is 4. Does my specialty no, it wouldn't apply. Do specialties apply on discipline rolls?
In theory, yes.
I do have a specialty in spirits.
Ley lines are not spirits. They are.
Okay.
They are literally just lines of ephemeral energy.
5. So rolling 9. So rolling 1, 2. So 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8. So rolling 9 dice. Because I have 4 aspects. So I believe I get to ask 3 questions.
3 successes. Success. 1 question per success about the place or object. Yes, you can.
All right. Is the dragon's nest that is the center of these nexus points, this interwoven nexus of ley lines within this building?
When you ask that question to your beast, you can see the lines of the ley lines take a more direct route towards the central point, what you believe to be the central point, somewhere a floor down and further into the university.
Awesome. What is the resonance? What is the resonance of the dragon's nest within this building? Because all dragon's nests have different types of resonance.
1 second. I'm actually going to get up the audio book for this.
No worries. I ask the hard questions.
Yeah, you really are, you dick.
Bishop, I just cursory glanced over your blue booking for sale. Go fuck yourself.
Taking my revenge before I needed to do so. You hear the rustling of plant life and the open breeze, and the sounds of what must be a gardener tending to it.
So it's about growth and possibly nature. That's interesting.
You would hazard a guess that this is probably the ley lines are a natural occurrence that have been enhanced by the Ordo, or tended to, altered in some way.
The last question: who performed the geomantic, the most recent set of geomantic rites?
One second.
As I get images of their face.
Mm-hmm. This is literally who you get. Get images of this person. Oh yeah, I forget you can't see, so I'll just put it in voice chat responses.
Thank you.
This individual.
Pretty.
And and I'm just going to. And you've really got me on this one. This one. Well, I think you'll enjoy the renaming of this file.
Why? What's the renaming of the file?
Oh, why isn't it giving it to me? God damn it. Come on. There you go.
Ooh. Interesting. Am I to take it that because of the way I asked the question that they worked on it together?
Yeah, you see a small group of colleagues with them, but they are barely any more than faceless entities in your vision. Those are the two that stand out as they perform a series of rites. The room in which they perform it it is windowless. A very simple, sparse room with nothing more than the ritual components in place itself. You reckon this is only part of a rite. It's probable that they perform multiple rites in multiple places.
Alexander just smiles before he readjusts his shades. on his face, and he continues to walk, his hands clasped behind his back. I take it I have a rough idea where the office that I'm meant to go is.
Yeah, it's just it is just it's just further into the university. The whole building is very very upper scale, very Baroque, very Regency, both externally and via the interior as well.
Delightful.
But eventually you reach an office for a member of faculty. And you'll knock on the door, and someone will, or rather, the man in question will open it for you. And again, I will give you an image in the voice chat responses. This individual.
What was his name again? Dr.
Layton.
Dr. Layton. I do hope I'm not early.
Well, I certainly prefer early to late.
For the record, he will go. He will happily go. Yeah, he will nod his head. A pleasure, sir. He will extend his hand.
Likewise, sir. He'll go to shake your hand.
A most fascinating building you have here. I must admit, I'm impressed.
Oh, it is hardly mine. I'm more of a glorified janitor of this place, really.
I often find that great places can swallow whole even great men.
That is, I hear, why King's College was chosen for us. But yes, oh, please, do take a seat.
Delightful. Thank you very much. What's his office like?
Oh, it's quite fancy. It's a very nice office. Very much in theme for rest of the college. Definitely has a very very Regency feel to it. Very ornate desk shelves. Modern lighting, but making use of but very old styling.
Mm-hmm. Alexander will he'll walk into the room. He allows his eyes to flick very quickly around the room before he will. Oh, actually, what clan is this gentleman?
He's of your clan.
Ah, delightful. Delightful. I will take a seat. Thank you. Thank you.
I don't intend to take up too much of your time. Just to get you up to speed, as it were. Normally just catch up with the mysteries, but I believe they're working overtime as of late.
Yes. I was introduced briefly to some of our fellows in a bar in Kingston. Charming bunch. I had several questions. One, Mr. Marcus Irons, nice chap, if a bit, well, plain, but we can't all have great resonant depth, can we? And, yeah.
They sought them to do well in the mysteries.
Ah,
Very
good, good.
very formulaic, know how to blend in, know how to work with the grey pallor of the masses, as it were. At least I find. Recently promoted, in fact.
Oh my, good for him, good for him. What was the cause of his upliftment?
It was a masquerade breach, fairly large, fairly severe one. A few months
yes.
ago, one of our own got swatted. Was instrumental in the cover-up. Was also instrumental in the seizing of a worm's nest. So, given quite remarkable for his age, I believe he is quite young. Can't put a finger on the exact on his exact.
I shall have to send. I shall have to send a memo to the mysteries, as a matter of fact. Actually, would you mind carrying a brief memo for me, as I'm not exactly sure where I should send it, but I did find this most disconcerting. The cause of said masquerade breach, I read it in the papers, you understand, quite international. The cause of that masquerade breach was simply sitting in a public bar in the middle of Kingston. In the open. I was gobsmacked. I should think that they'd want to muzzle that rather quickly or have it quashed in some way.
We're keeping, or rather, I believe the mysteries is keeping tabs on the gentleman to ensure he doesn't get into a larger mess than he was already in.
Quite so, quite so. Actually, Bishop, with Medicine 3, and because I'm not to understand, with 3, is it fair to say that he could be a practicing doctor?
Oh yeah, in theory with 2 dots you could be practicing, although you would be fairly new at the job. With 3 you're an established professional in your field, most doctors who have been at the job for 10 plus years are at 3 dots.
Does that also include specialties? Because he does have a surgery specialty. Would that add on to his expertise? I don't know how specialties work in terms of increasing the value of a dot.
Well, they don't necessarily increase the value of a dot per se, they just give you an additional dice. It's something you're particularly good at, so you get the extra dice in it, but it depends on what you're trying to figure out.
Well, no, because basically I'm saying that if he has the ability to practice as a medical doctor and probably has a lot of medical supplies considering his job, I'd assume he'd know of the existence of Goodman Pharmaceutical as a concern, aka they provide medical supplies and drugs, etc., pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, I'll say you do. Yeah, you're aware. They're not an international firm. They're national, so they're not. You wouldn't have dealt with them in outside of the United Kingdom, but or in the British Isles. But they are, at least in London, they're well known, and given your particular line of given your particular needs, less so your line of work, you would know of them.
But yes, I do apologise, Doctor. I have digressed. You know what it's like when two old salts sit down to have a conversation. The conversation inevitably wanders. What is it? You were here to give me a briefing. I am ready to accept the briefing, and then I have some points I'd like to make to you. But by all means, sir, the floor is yours.
Of course, thank you. It's nothing too significant, just an explanation of the political situation on the ground and the various few warnings the Acts and the Mysteries would like to provide to our dedicated order. I'm sure if you weren't aware when you arrived, you're certainly aware now that war has very much been declared from the Carthage to the Invictus. As much as we'd like to remain politically neutral, or we believed we were, we have been assailed, it seems, by a certain subsect of the Sanctified. So we are in turn, although no official statement has yet been made, very much on hostile terms with them. You would, the Axe advises, and in turn of the mysteries, that they are not to be dealt with. They can be affiliated with, but not dealt with or contracted to in any way, shape, or form. They have assaulted us without provocation and seem very intent on wiping us off the face of London. Very sudden and unfortunate. But it is unfortunately the way of things right now. So far, King's College has not been assailed. However, several other of our holdings have been, and given that we particularly tend to gather where there is, well, while there are discoveries to be made and research to be done, we tend to make for very luminous targets. And that is something that the Axe apparently is particularly concerned about. As for the other covenants, we are quite free. Well, we remain free to deal with whom we wish, to assist whom we wish on a personal basis, so long as we are not acting on behalf of the Order as a whole. The only other exception is the Circle of the Crone, who let's just say we have a shared interest when it comes to seeing the sanctified removed from our respective domains. So they are, shall we say, encouraged to be given a discount on anything that we may provide them.
Wonderful. Well,
terribly boring politics. I'm sure, but
as I'm sure you know, Doctor, war breeds innovation.
Yes, and of course, if you are assaulted in any way, we have sworn of the Axe ready to respond at a moment's notice.
Oh. I am more than capable of handling myself, but I thank you very much for the offer. As a matter of fact, I shall get on to what I have for you then. One moment, where did I put it? One moment. You see him reach into his coat pocket, and he will remove a letter, and he will put it across the table.
Ooh.
Perhaps you're aware of my most honoured and noted sire, an individual who simply goes by the... What is Constantine's... Do I know Constantine's second name?
He's just called Constantine. If you use Auspex on him, he's just called Constantine. That is apparently just a name he uses now. If he had a name, he's long since given it up and has ceased to use it.
My sire, Master Constantine, he summoned me here under very specific matters of interest, if you follow. Please, if you would, by all means, read the letter if you would like.
He does take a moment. The implications of that settling in. A smile fades from his face ever so slightly. But he will take the letter and read it. Is there anything particularly in the letter that bears worth mentioning? That is worth mentioning?
It's basically Constantine informing him, as we agreed, because we decided who would summon him here, that there was a particular problem in the city relating to a particular set of entities in the city.
Constantine doesn't really. He's not subtle. He does not fear these things in
Yes.
the way that the other kindred do. He quite openly states what they are.
Yep. Neither does Alexander. He has no fear of them whatsoever, almost suicidally. But as a matter of fact, when he reads it, may I use Auspex 1 on this particular personage?
Mm-hmm. Sure, yeah.
Wait, actually, before I do, because if he's another maquette, can Auspex see Auspex?
In theory, someone could use Auspex to ask if you have used Auspex on them. They would need to know or be suspicious of you doing so. And of course,
Okay.
Auspex by itself is quite subtle. Like there are no external factors. You know, if you use Auspex, nobody gets a supernatural ping in their head.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Okay. They don't get a supernatural ping in their head unless they have a specific power which says when a supernatural power goes off, you get the ping, which the vast majority of supernaturals in this setting do not have.
So, with an exceptional success, it gives the vampire further insight into the questions asked. How afraid is this man of the thing that is referenced in the letter?
You get a strong, hefty, weighty sensation of paranoia in your chest when you read him. It is not quite overwhelming. It is not panic. It is not phobia. But there is paranoia, and it is a strong sensation.
Okay.
Paranoia, in your experience, given your experience, is usually the most appropriate and common response, as the Strix are less known for their overt capacity for destruction and more for their capacity to lie hidden within the bodies of other kindred, waiting. Very much a masquerade within a masquerade. No one knows who to trust, and kindred society is already untrustworthy. You get that this person is afraid, but you don't think that they are so overtly afraid that they would be irrational.
He will smile and he will say, "So you see, my friend, or you see, Doctor, we have two large problems that currently face us." I don't really want to ask the other 7 questions I could ask.
We're using beast hackles.
I could use either one. In theory, I'd have a 1 higher dice pool for the second one. Whichever you'd prefer me to use. Whichever is more appropriate.
I think, 1 second.
Because I'm not 100% sure if it's uncanny perception or beast hackles.
You're using uncanny perception because that was the exceptional success you invoked.
Okay.
Exceptional success off of beast hackles would be you just ask 2 questions instead of 1.
Okay.
Yes. We have been having a number of problems relating to ephemeral as of late. While this does concern me, it doesn't surprise me. I'm sure the Order of Mistrals will be touting this as a wondrous opportunity for the Crone and the Ordo to close some ties and get together and have some kumbaya. Of course, given the contents of this letter, I will be informing. I will need to inform the Axe as they have taken this matter under their purview, as is a matter of sect security, as I'm sure you understand.
Inform the Sworn of the Axe, if you would be so kind as to do me another small service, my friend. I am an expert in the hunting and eradication of these creatures. I would be more than happy to, for a small nominal advancement, or some other service that I may call upon at a later point, supply the axe with weapons that are the only guaranteed means of the destruction of these entities.
Okay. OC, may I ask you a question?
You may.
What is Heartwell's intent of the Strix?
That is an interesting question. Do you want me to give it to you in the form of a vision, or in the form of me just telling you?
Just tell me. Out of character.
You have to understand your greatest enemy before you can destroy them.
Okay. Very well. Leighton puts reseals the letter in another envelope. I will pass this on your behalf.
Delightful. As I said, the axe will need to be equipped with tools necessary for the trade, and unfortunately, my bloodline are oddly rare in these parts, with the exception of myself and Master Constantine. We have been fighting them for millennia, and will, I assume, continue to do so. Oh, may I have my letter back?
Oh, he said he'd be passing on the letter to members of the Axe.
He doesn't really mind that much, but he'll smile and he'll say, anything for security, I suppose. But yes, ultimately, the Circle of the Crone, the covenant to which my dear father is aligned, and our own can, I believe, work together for the mutual benefit of both in the destruction of this waiting and looming threat.
Of course. And he pauses for a moment, sort of gauging the sort of dissatisfied response Heartwell had. Of course, I'm sure your notice of summoning will be returned to you.
Oh, I have no doubt. He smiled.
With recent events, the Axe have been guarded. I do not blame them, given the circumstances. The domain is in a very fragile place with the creatures you have been summoned here for, as well as the current geopolitical landscape. It is very dangerous.
Oh, but my dear doctor, I don't feel you understand. My apologies, and I do not mean to insinuate, but you do know that this is all part of their plan.
He pauses for about 3 seconds, and then I couldn't say I have encountered them as of yet, so I cannot claim to know. That would not surprise me.
Question, he's a professor of ancient history, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything Roman in this room?
There's nothing explicitly Roman in the room other than books on Roman history. There is a bookshelf, very lovely ornate bookshelf with various historical books, some of which actually look fairly valuable.
He will say, if you wish, and if the mysteries and the Axe wish, I will quite happily screen members of our organization in order to make sure they are not acting as puppets for a nascent and rather dreadful cause. We are constantly called upon, my bloodline are constantly called upon to do this, and I am happy to make that sacrifice for the good of our organization. It may give people peace of mind.
I believe that'd be very much appreciated. Needless to say, our resources in screening members is limited but present. Although it is a drain on some of us. Your assistance, I believe, would be much appreciated. I will keep you in touch with the axe if that is to be the case. However, as well, given the nature of our enemy, I believe they'd be intelligent enough to take exception to your assistance if they were to notice it.
Yes, but then again, you must understand, and I do beg your pardon, I do not mean to seem as though I'm lecturing you at all, but you have to understand that these entities are ambush predators. They are used to people not knowing how to combat them, not knowing their weaknesses, not knowing how they maneuver. That is their greatest advantage. When one knows how they move, knows how they think, knows how to combat them, they are not nearly as dangerous. They are still dangerous, but they lose much of their teeth.
True, knowledge and understanding brings with it power.
If the axe would desire it, I would be quite happy to do on behalf of the Order of Dying Light, of course, a seminar on the topic.
I will discuss the matter on your behalf with other members of the Sworn. I believe, or it is my personal perception, having been here for a great period of time, that it may be suggested that a more private approach be taken, but I'm sure the sharing of such knowledge would be most appreciated by such invested parties.
In that case, what might be of the best compromise? I will write something. I will pen it. This will include certain commonalities, certain common factors. Present it as research to the Dying Light, who may then give it to whom they wish, those whom require the knowledge. Without, of course, giving away too many of my own blood's ancient and secret arts, you understand, but there are many things the common kindred can do to make themselves safe, or safer.
Of course. And I can tell you that I, at the very least, do not wish to pry upon the matters of your particular family.
Well, considering he looks down at his clock, I have a meeting with my father to attend. I shall give him your best.
I thank you. It is most appreciated. He will stand from his chair. It was a pleasure to meet you, Sir Heartwell.
And you, Doctor. Delighted. We shall have to have tea some evening.
You have Ujjet active, right?
Yep.
Something you've been noticing this entire time. There has been something very very resonant in the pigeonhole in his desk. You can't see what it is because you can't see for objects. But you can sense the energy. Something. It's like sort of like a radio signal. Not like it's trying to communicate with something, but it is glowing with some manner of power.
Can I spirits touch the desk?
Yes, you can. Just requires a roll.
Yep, same roll as before. So my wits is 2, my occult is 3, and my auspex is 4. So rolling 9 dice. Ooh, shit! I forgot to type roll.
Oh dear.
I know. All right, I get 2 successes.
Okay.
Hey desk, what is currently located in that drawer?
Okay. So what is located in the top drawer, basically? It is a book. You see it quite clearly. You might even call it a grimoire of sorts. Has odd symbology on the front of it. In your vision, the book is actually even opened for the first few pages. Those pages sort of flick all the way over and then close. A lot of occult texts inside. You only get a brief glimpse at what's inside. But it is clearly a book that is of hermetic knowledge and symbology.
Should I roll intelligence occult? Oh no, actually, one more question before I do, because I get 2 questions. Did he put that book in? When did he put that book in the desk? Basically, did he do it just as I was entering, or when I knocked on the door?
You get a vision of you knocking on the door, and then the sound of the desk opening and then closing.
My dear doctor, he'll say as he turns to leave. He says, "You will forgive me. My particular family are gifted when it comes to matters of spiritual presences. They radiate to us, you see. This is one of our abilities that is linked to how it is we can perceive things, such as our common foe. There appears to be a rather palpable spiritual aura in the top drawer of your desk."
He takes a moment to look at you curiously. Unsure as to whether to be happy or annoyed for the briefest of moments, before saying, "Oh yes, that is one moment actually. I'm surprised you noticed."
As I said, when it is we perceive things, we tend to perceive them in their entirety. It's both a gift and a curse.
He actually unlocks the drawer to the pigeonhole and just opens it up. He actually just holds up the book. This is a artifact of my own making, believe it or not. It took me a great deal of time and research and a significant amount of trial and error.
Oh my. May I?
Of course.
Delightful. He actually flicks up his sunglasses so they're off his face. You can see the fact that his eyes are his eyes are kind of an... Because I like to flavor Ujat that his eyes go slate black when he's using it. I know it doesn't do it per the book, but I think it just looks cooler.
No, it's very cool. Your eyes go slate book, they gaze over the book. Do you actually have the language merit?
Do I have the language merit? I do not.
What language? It's actually covered, funnily enough, in Vampire, but it is covered in Chronicles of Darkness.
What language is it? Latin?
Actually, yeah. Do you want to make me a academics check to discern language? You won't be able to read it, but you'll be able to tell what language it is.
Delightful.
It is a fairly obscure language,
Oh,
so it's not
no,
immediately
you can't.
identifiable.
He will say, unfortunately, Doctor, I don't believe I know the script.
Well, not many do. It is a fairly obscure branch of the Latino Faliscan family.
Fascinating. The book has, as I said, quite a powerful spiritual resonance. I must admit, I was impressed. What is the topic?
Well, I'm sure you are aware of various other entities that exist in the Midnight Society other than ourselves, yes?
Oh, quite so, quite so.
They tend to carry around books like these. Those that consider themselves magi. There's quite a wide variety of them. The particular subspecies, I suppose, is the most accurate term of them, have a tendency towards crafting grimoires such as these in order to fuel their sorcerous arts. I investigated and researched towards replicating whether it would be possible for us to do the same.
Fascinating. And you found that this was a possibility.
It took a great deal of time, and when I mentioned trial and error, I mean a few very hostile run-ins with these particular sorcerers. But yes, one can bind, it appears, certain supernatural effects and spells, for lack of a better term. Perhaps it is the most appropriate term in this instance, into written form for one to cast and for others to cast.
Fascinating. Fascinating. You're a man who likes to trade, Doctor. Secret for a secret.
Well, I do love a bit of quid pro quo.
Bit of tit for a bit of tat.
Yes.
Quite so, quite so. He taps one of his. He seems to contemplate for a few moments before saying, "This would be a more long-term agreement, of course. I've just newly awoken recently from torpor, so I find that I have atrophied somewhat in my time slumbering. You understand? I'm still reacclimatizing myself. When I was last awake, needless to say, Back to the Future lied to us." That's his current running joke. Back to the Future is not historically accurate because he went into torpor like the 80s. But he says,
it's never quite the same as in the movies. I'll do go on. Ooh. You there? Uh-oh. Oh, we may be having slight technical issues. Evan. Oh dear, there he goes. What a minor hiccup with our friend's internet.
Sorry about that. For some reason, my internet crackled.
That's fine.
Who was it? He taps his eye and he says, "I'm led to understand that you are also a follower of the Coil of Zenitra, dear Doctor."
Yes, this was something of a magnum opus for myself.
Yes, quite so. I'm currently working on a new alteration to a previously assigned permutation, you see, in the form of, well, it was going to be a surprise that I was going to present to a symposium in a few weeks' time, you understand. But I was going to be working on an alteration of a scale of the Coil of Zenitra, the ability to remove to remove a given supernatural body part for implantation and then allow its regeneration using various different things, such as the regenerating essences of various different spiritual entities and ley lines, essentially allowing one to sidestep a large vulnerability to the given procedure as already existent. You following with me?
Ah, yes, I'm quite familiar with the art.
Yes, but needless to say, I find your concept fascinating. I would deeply love to be tuteled in the manner, and I would be willing to give you a rather substantial trade. He taps one of his eyes again. The slate black eye. If you follow me.
He does. I see. I don't.
Out of character, he's basically saying, "I will cut out one of my eyes that will let you that will basically have Ujat turned on so you can use it."
Oh shit, that's handy.
That is handy.
Now, of course, if you regenerate the eye, he won't be able to use it, at least using that particular scale. But he will be able to study it. So...
Mm-hmm. And my character is unaffected by being blind anyway.
Yeah.
Unless he gets the blinded condition from being in very bright light, which is, I'd like to understand different. But yeah, so he's basically saying, you give me some tutelage in what you've done, and I'll give you one of my eyes. Until such point as I'm able to regenerate, because basically he is planning to work on a scale that will allow him to regenerate the body part. We discussed the scale in brief. It'd be his rank 5 Zenitra scale that would let him regenerate his body part after it had been taken.
You know, I would be quite happy to make the trade. It's a very generous offer. I rarely have the opportunity to study such a unique subject.
Of course, we would have to keep the trade entirely between us, you understand?
Of course, I understand how these things work.
Good. Well, I am, so we will agree that, I'm still getting settled in, you see. So in a few weeks, I'll contact you, and we will perform the procedure.
Of course.
Wonderful. It's so good when men of science can come together and come to such wonderful conclusions. I'm led to understand you allow women into higher education. No, I'm not going to do that.
Oh my god, no. Harry just walks in with a stake and a hammer.
She's coming for me. Somewhere out there in the cosmic universe, she has heard sexism. I'm doomed. But as I've said, I'm unfortunately somewhat late to meet my own illustrious sire. So I will speak to you later, Dr. Layton. It has been a pleasure.
An absolute pleasure to meet you as well. This has been a delightful meeting. Please have a fine rest of an evening.
I shall make my best attempt. Are we cool to just do a short conversation with Constantine? Because I don't really need him for that long. Just need to kind of be like, hey, Dad. Hey, disappointment, son. How's it going?
Constantine, you know that Constantine... funnily enough, even for you, he's difficult to contact. But he did tell you where to go. You can go to an occult shop called The Art. You can find a means of contacting him there.
Actually, I'm going to use my status occult 3. Tell me of the art.
The art is an interesting little shop to do various fringe face cults and occult organizations of London. As the more savvy among the organizations have realized that while a lot of what they have is very insubstantial and irrelevant, used more by kids with a toddler's understanding of the occult. For those established organizations, at specific times, they always seem to have what they need. They never have it in stock until they ask for it, but within 48 hours, they will always have it. They have yet to fail at procuring whatever an organization has asked of them. And are quite well established within the occult community. Of various faiths, they're fairly well diversified. But what they have at the front, on the shop floor is not exactly what people go to them for.
Okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do the thing. Can my spirits touch the shop?
You can go up to the shop and spirits touch it, yes.
He'll do it as he's walking in the door.
Okay. What are you asking of the shop? Actually, let's see how many successes you get.
Oh, I had to get 1 success.
Okay. What do you ask?
Which secret/shady cult secret cult organization secretly owns you?
The Followers of Set.
Oh, I feel comfy here. He will sidle his way through the shop. He will actually look like he's browsing. He has his shades back on. Ujat is still active because I think that stays active for the scene.
Yeah, it stays active for the whole scene, so it's active.
Anything
active for the next few hours.
Anything interesting in here?
No, nothing that immediately gauges your attention.
He smiles before he walks to the. He walks towards the counter. Is the person behind it? Do they have a predatory aura? Or ghoul?
The woman at the counter. You can sense that she is not just a kindred, but that she shares your blood.
Bishop, is there a super secret Setite greeting? Like a handshake? Can we have a handshake?
the Sedites, as many occult organizations do, have their foibles, their code languages, yes, or their little means of communicating with each other, letting each other know that they belong. She is fairly apparent. She actually has the Wadjet symbol over her eye and an anchor around her neck. So, to you, it is extremely apparent.
He very casually, he very casually rolls up his sleeve. He's gonna have his Wadjet symbol tattooed on his forearm. Because why not? Greetings, sister. Lovely evening.
Oh, dear brother, I should have closed early.
Well, such a cold night. The one thing I don't miss about Britain when I'm here is how cold it gets.
Cold? It is cold? I didn't notice. You are here to see your sire, yes?
I am indeed. Rather elusive man, but he's brought me to the one place in the entirety of London town I can feel at home, or one of the few places I can feel at home, so I'll forgive him his foibles.
Yes. I will go... I can find him for you. It will take some time. He is reclusive and he goes to places.
He still has those damn mirrors that make it feel like you're being held underwater, does he? Bastard. Nothing?
He has a lot of things. But she actually would like to roll me a Wits plus Empathy roll.
Ooh, I can do this. I'm bad at rolling dice.
God damn it.
I'm tired.
Not good enough. There we go.
Oh, no.
No successes, unfortunately. Nah, she appears a bit odd, but you can't really tell why. Maybe it's just...
Because she is him!
I know how to find him. It will just take you a few nights. I think he is... very distracted right now.
Well,
and he...
Oh, you continue.
She does make these very long pauses, by the way, and she sort of gestures of her hands as if trying to express herself. Is trying to find his particular path forward. Things have been complicated for him. But I will let him know that you have arrived, and he can get in touch with you at his leisure, because it will be the other way around, because that is what he always does.
Well, I tell you what, why don't I leave a contact number here? And when he eventually turns up, you can call me.
Yes, he still has a phone. He has not lost his phone yet.
Oh, good. Good. He will place down the phone number on the counter.
She will take it down. She will also trade numbers with you. Her name is Magaladine Jolting.
He will file that away. I'm curious, why is it that he has been so concerned of late? The eyes flick back and somewhat narrow.
I think there are, he does not tell me everything. but she'll actually and then as she's talking with you, she immediately switches over to a customer who's just sort of behind you off to your side and says, "Oh, hello, sir. How may I help you?" And just goes through the whole routine of serving a customer. It takes about 30 seconds or more before she swaps back to you and actually will head over to the door and just turn around that close sign. He does not tell me everything, but I believe he thinks the issue is worse than it appears to be. I know there are a lot of them. I don't know how many, and I don't know how far in they are, other than that they are.
Disconcerting. Very good, very good. Well, in that case, I shall, You see his eyes kind of flick half closed again as he seems to be contemplating. Essentially, almost like Alexander is buffering.
I think he's concerned politics are involved.
Oh yes, well, it's obvious this entire strife within the city is their plan, but no one else can really see it. But that's how, of course.
I don't mean that sort of politics.
Well, I tell you what, you have my means of contact. I will be more than happy to see him when he eventually re-emerges from whatever shadow he's in at the moment.
Yes. He will be re-emerging soon, I think.
Good, good. Well, I shall bid you good evening, my dear.
I'll bid you good evening. Have a pleasant evening.
Yeah, Bishop, I'm gonna...
Careful, so I shall not tell you.
I'm gonna roll Auspex 2 on her. I'll spend the requisite blood point, because I've done it once in the scene already.
Okay. Oh, I should have been applying penalties to them, actually, I think. Because I think you do actually apply... Do you not apply penalties to these?
Doesn't say you do.
Oh, apparently you don't. Wow, that Auspex is so damn good.
Rub his hands in maquette.
Laughs in maquette, which is not at all. Nobody hears them. Yeah.
Alright, 3 successes.
Successes.
What is the matter with how she's speaking?
What is the matter with how she is speaking?
Yeah, I can phrase that better, and the character would probably phrase it better. Why is she speaking in such a disjointed manner?
You get a vision of complete blackness where about dozens of eyes and ears appear across the landscape, and you can see in the eyes they are all seeing different things. You can feel that you are literally hearing dozens of different sounds, noises, and voices. It is difficult to pinpoint any of them, but some of them you can actually define as yourself, Constantine, and other events that appear very disjointed from each other.
Okay, is there some roll I can make to identify that out of character? Because Evan has no idea about that.
You think that she is seeing and hearing things that you cannot perceive that she can, that are distracting you from your conversation with her. or that she has seen and heard. It's not clear if it's happening right now or if it has happened.
Considering he hunts basically body snatchers, it would almost be second nature. Is she currently being... This is the second question. Is she currently being puppeted?
You receive no vision. All you receive is a sensation of, funnily enough, purity, cleanliness. She is definitely not corrupted. Your beast almost tells you that directly.
Ooh. Fuck it, for the last one, because I have 3 questions. What is her greatest desire?
To see things happen as they were meant to happen. And more specifically, you see...
Well. Oh, you can take me, sir.
To see the crone be made whole as it is going to be. You definitely get the sense that that there is a sense of contentment. You see these desires, but you also see... You almost feel as if, from her perspective, they have already been fulfilled.
Well, it has been a pleasure to meet you. I'm curious if our particular family... Oh, actually, I never asked this. She's a member of my quote-unquote family. How close related is she? Is she my blood sister?
So I more or less gave you this for free. Because she is of your family, but she is in no way related to you via lineage. It's the vague sensation of she is of your bloodline, but she is of your blood. But she is... It's the same sensation David get when, like, clans get when they're around other clanmates. They understand them to be family, but they don't have a very strong connection to them.
But he will say, we shall need to have a gathering some evening. I have no doubt that there's been something planned. Let me know when it is we are to have our next evening.
Yes, the unseen wish for a meeting with each other, which is going to be difficult, how most of us will be unseen.
It is as it is. Let me know when something is arranged and I will attend.
Yes, I will let you know.
Wonderful. In that case, I shall bid you good evening.
Goodbye.
He puts his hands behind his back and he walks out of the shop. He stops outside the shop and he puts a cigarette to his mouth and he lights it and takes a deep inhalation. He's going to let his eyes track around here, Bishop. He's low-key... Something about this whole thing has made him paranoid and he doesn't know why. But he's just making sure that he's very much alone. And as a matter of fact, can I passively lash out with the beast, with Auspex, in case somebody is around me under obfuscate?
To lash out against an obfuscated kindred, you would need to be aware that there is an obfuscated kindred.
How does Auspex work to break obfuscate?
It is effectively a clash of wills. So basically, you roll the power again. You roll your power plus the level of the power you're using plus your blood potency, or the power trait of your supernatural. So for a mage, it'd be Gnosis, for a wealth, primal edge, etc. And then it would be against the same dice roll that your opponent would be using. So against an obfuscated kindred, it would be your Auspex plus your blood potency against their obfuscate plus their blood potency.
Do I need to know they're there, or can I do it because I have Auspex?
It is passive. It would trigger on its own. I can tell you this. You do not sense anyone around. You do not feel as if you're being watched. And your obfuscate is admittedly fairly advanced. At the very least, no lesser kindred is spying on you.
He takes a deep drag of the cigarette. Something in the back of his head is just nagging at him. You know that feeling, like almost like we're designed to be paranoid or something.
I'll also give you the image of the woman you just talked to because I completely forgot to do that.
That's fair.
You've actually met her before as Joshua.
Oh, she's the one who gave him the book of Going Forth by Night.
Mm-hmm.
On a side note, as a setite, do I have a copy of that book?
Yes.
Nice.
You cannot harness the sorcerer's rituals through it, as you are not you do not know how to perform blood sorcery. But
I'd assume that'd be somewhere in the list of advantages for being a setite, actually, somewhere in it. But I never want to do blood sorcery again, ever. But he stubs out the cigarette as he walks down the road. Yeah, there's just something in the back of his head, like he's trying to put these pieces together. Something's unnerved Constantine, which is a piece. And bear in mind, this guy literally, from my experience with him, he gives no fucks, right? So for something to actively worry him, this is a guy who literally fights the vampiric boogeyman practically every night. So for something to have unnerved him, would it be a fair assessment, Bishop, that from Alexander's perspective, that's actually a big deal?
Yeah, you don't really see Constantine get rattled before. He's always very. I mean, you could say he's perpetually rattled by the Strix, but. And he's always been fervent. He's always been zealous, and ruthless in his pursuit of them. For him to be concerned beyond, for him to believe, it was stated that there was politics involved. Do you want to make a wits plus expression to understand what that might mean?
Do I have expression? I go from having a character with expression to I think one with none. But I will check because he has Alexander has some weird stats. Alex, do you have expression? Alex, do you? Expression. He does not. I will pop a willpower because I do low-key want to understand it. So that would be wits 2 plus 3 is 5 minus 1 because it's untrained is 4 dice, I believe. Yep. I get a success.
Okay. That statement means one of two things. Either politics, kindred politics, or mortal politics is getting in the way of the hunt. And it is not necessarily maliciously, but the political landscape is preventing Constantine from really doing his job to the extent that he would like to, which wouldn't necessarily be unlikely given that there is a war currently and that the princedom is not particularly a fan of Constantine. Granted, they haven't evicted him from the city either, but clearly he's not a friend to the princedom. And you know Constantine to be a very straightforward sort. He does not care for politics. if people get burnt because he took out a Strix, well, as far as he's concerned, they should be thanking him.
Mm-hmm.
So there's either politics is getting in the way of what he wishes to do, and with the number the number of Strix in the city is considered to be large. That is concerning. Or politics, as in a number of entities are dealing with the Strix, and that there is an arrangement here which would be significantly more dangerous.
Yeah, we're talking like this is what caused Rome to fall, kind of, levels of shit.
Sort of, on a more micro scale, but definitely very extremely unwise, to say the least. Probably in a best case scenario, catastrophic in a worst case scenario.
In Alexander's experience, because obviously he hunted the Strix with Constantine for a few decades before the two had their spectacular falling out, what drives Kindred to negotiate with them? Because I'm assuming they've dusted Kindred who have actively dealt with them in the past, because they've been idiots and needed to die.
One of them is idiocy. It is naivete. The belief that they can get one up on the Strix, or that they aren't as bad as everybody says. A degree of ignorance. But it is a lot of things, frankly, that presses one to deal with the devil, as it were. Desperation, fear, a grudge. The boldest and often most dangerous of kindred to other kindred and domains at large are those who view Strix as tools to acquire power or to satisfy a vendetta that they have. They view everything around them as a means, which of course is common among kindred, and as such it is unfortunately it is not particularly uncommon for kindred who know of Strix to deal with them. It is often why the elders hide knowledge of the Strix from neonates, because that is their fear. And in your experience, they aren't wrong. Those who know of the Strix often view them as just another means to an end. And the Strix, them, of course, in your experience and for everything that you've seen, heard, and read, the Strix have always come out on top in the end. It is extremely rare for a Strix to be tricked by a kindred. It is almost always the other way around. Not just because of the age of the general kindred that deal with them. Elders generally know better. But also because the Strix have means that kindred simply don't.
Alexander kind of he stops as he cocks his head to the side, and he will simply and very audibly sigh, one of the very few human biological responses he still allows himself to be disappointed. Before he will. Yeah, the last thing I'd like to do, Bishop, and this could either be entirely narrative or might have some minor bearing. Is there a high place he can go to look out over the city? Like the top of a tall building or something?
In theory, you could just find a building a few stories high and head up a lift and.
Basically, with his otherworldly eyes, I'd like to end the scene with him looking out over London to basically see if somewhere in any of the morass there's just a gigantic, I don't know, worm's nest of sadness. Or sorry, a hive, a black spiral dancer hive of sadness.
Funnily enough, in Chronicles world, they're called the Pure.
Wait, whoa! Black spiral dancers are called the Pure.
the werewolf baddies are called the pure.
Oh.
And instead of being corrupted, they pursue themselves as the only pure werewolves.
God.
Which I think is a nice reversal, but
Well, considering the other ones literally drip toxic waste, yeah, I'd say so.
I have no idea why Lid liked it, but okay. But as you look over the city, it is a morass of activity, both spiritual and mundane. There is power everywhere. Power that you would like to examine, power that you know you really shouldn't, but you know you will anyway.
Amazing.
And with that, I think we can end the scene there as you look with your Ujad over the vast spirit courts of London. Thank you, a player, for playing. Thank you, watchers watching, and we'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.